So if there are no questions on these things, then let's begin our lesson today. Today, our discussion is going to go around what we are going to do during the system, during the semester, and a general overview of the course and the things in which we are going to do in the course. In the course, we are going to talk about computer architecture. What is computer architecture? Some people also call it digital computer organization. It is the conceptual design and fundamental organizational structure of a computer. So if I took a computer and I stripped it to its bare bones, what do I physically have? I'll have the input devices, I'll have the CPU, I'll have the output devices. This diagram here showcases the basic structure of a computer. For our course, our main focus will be the CPU and the memory. We are going to see how we can build a computer that would, number one, meet the functional needs of us. So whatever needs we have, the computer must meet it. Number two, it must perform to its best ability. And number three, it must be cost effective. So you realize that in this course, we want to build a blueprint and a functional description of requirements and design implementations for the various parts of a computer. We are going to be focusing largely on the way by which the central processing unit performs internally and accesses addresses in memory. Now, this here becomes the definition of computer architecture. So we are not looking at only how we can build a computer, but how we can build a computer to meet our functional requirements. They see the whenever someone because I teach programming courses too, you'd realize that students are given the opportunity to ask me what computer do I recommend? And that question is a very involving question because what computer to recommend to a particular student is dependent on what the student wants to do. What is the student's focus at the end of the course? Is he on data? Is he on graphics? Is he on videography? Is he on programming? Is he on networking? Because the avenue of IT you'll be focusing on will determine the standard of computer that you would use. In our workplace, the computer that will be used by the media people, by the reporter, by the photographer, by the software unit, by the systems handling unit, by the database unit, by the front desk, by the senior management. Each person in this chain has different requirements for their laptop. Some can be okay with an 8 gig. Some an 8 gig is too small. They need 32. Some they need 16. You see, what requirements you would use or you would need or would use your computer for will determine which specifications you require. And that will also determine what we need to buy for you. So, in computer architecture, another definition we can go through is that we can say it is the science and art of selecting interconnecting hardware components to create computers that meet functional, performance, and cost goals. Of course, if I was given unlimited money to build the best laptop in which I could build, I would apply the money into it and build the best laptop I can build. But I don't have unlimited money. So the resources we have are very small. How can we get the best laptop? How do we even know we have the best laptop or computer or watch or smartphone? How do we know? What benchmarks do we know? So in our course, we are going to be looking at the functionalities. How do we see which functionality is better, who needs what, and who needs what when they need what? We are going to be looking at performance. How can we measure performance? How can I say that my laptop is better than yours? Is it through speed? Is it through memory? Is it through bandwidth? Is it through a particular performance matrix we have put in? How do I know that my computer is better than yours? And at the end of the day, If your computer is better than mine and your computer costs 100 million Ghana cedis and my computer costs 10,000 Ghana cedis, but at the basic level, we are equal. Is yours better than mine? So we will look at these things and evaluate these things during the course. Are there any questions?
Sir, please no.
So let's go on. And by the way, this week is our first week, but going on from next week, I would be asking some of you to unmute and speak. It is an interactive class. I can speak, but obviously I have done my 4-year degree already. So it means that it is not my job to speak. It is your job to learn, and it is your job to also what? Speak. Back to what we are doing. Whenever we have a computer, if we are taking the smallest computer we want to build, what are the components that we require to build that computer? We require the CPU or the processor. We require the buses because the CPU has to transmit information to other components, has to send commands to other components. So how will it send the commands to the other components? It will send them through the bus because the bus is the interconnected communication network that the computer uses to communicate with its components. It will need a memory because it will need a place to store information temporarily, maybe load information from. It will need a memory. It will need an input output device. Now, the input output device could be parallel or could be series. It could be one way or it could be two way. So we would see what all of those things are. We need programmable I/O interrupts. Interrupts are very important because some components are more important than other components. Some components need higher priority than other components. If we take you and I as human beings, breathing is very important. That is why even if you think of breathing or you don't think of breathing, you breathe. So the computer needs a mechanism for it to know that maybe something in which you are doing, you have to stop and focus on this because this one has been done. A good example of that is when you plug up your USB drive. When your USB drive is connected to your computer, you realize that immediately you plug in, it tells you that a new media has been found. What do you want to do? Things like that. And then we need direct memory access. So we look at our secondary storages and so on and so forth. So for us, here is where our class is going to dwell on. We'll take each of these items here, we will dissect them, we'll see how we can measure performance, what makes it better, how does it work, and then we'll define them. And this is what our semester is going to be like. This is how a basic computer is normally structured. You have the CPU and you have the other components in the computer. Now, the components are connected through the bus lines. There is not just one bus. On the diagram here, you can see we have the data bus for transferring data. You can see also that the direction of the data bus, it goes in two ways, which means that we can transmit information from the CPU to a particular component and from a particular component to the CPU. The address only goes in one way. And to be honest, the address normally goes to the memory or a storage device. Now, it is the CPU's way of telling the computer that, hey, I need information. So go to this address and pick the information there. So when it goes to the address, the information will be transferred using the data bus. But the knowing of the location is through the address bus. And if there is any action you need to perform, a read or a write, any interrupt you need to do, that is also controlled by the control bus. So there are different bus lines for various things in which we need to do. And this is the normal general structure of the computer. If we bring this into practice, then we have a diagram that looks like this. Now, in this diagram here, we can see that we have our memory slots over here for us to slot any memory devices in which we have. Then we have the fan over here. The fan is always going to be connected to a metal rod, and that metal rod is always going to be placed on top of the CPU or the processor. Now, the processor is on top of the metal rod because it gets hot. It gets hot very, very quickly. And again, in computer building, you realize that ventilation is very important because of the CPU. So, mathematically, if something gets hot, it moves to a colder region. So when you cool this section here, the heat from here will move here, hence becoming cold. Hence, anytime the CPU gets hot, the heat will be removed away from it, hence cooling the computer, hence cooling the CPU, and then cooling the computer. Again, we have the interfaces over here for you to connect all peripheral devices or I/O devices. And then over here, we have the graphic cards and the chipsets. Over here, we have the CMOS battery to help your computer keep time. And we will see very soon that in order to measure performance, in order for the computer to work, everything is based on time. So it is very important that your computer's time is in sync so that all actions can be performed. And we will see that. Over here, I have my Wi-Fi card, and then here I have my hard disk slot. So here is a cross section of a device that has been opened for us. Another example of a cross section of a device that has been opened for us is this. Again, over here, I have my RAM slots. So I have one RAM here, one RAM here. Over here, I have my fan, and we can see the metal rod. That means that over here, I have my processor or my CPU. And remember, when it gets hot, it moves to a colder region, and then the heat is blown away, hence making it what? Cold. Now, remember, this structure we are looking at, this infrastructure we are looking at, is all based on the design in which we have over here. So, with that in mind, what is the CPU? The CPU, what is it? Now, the CPU is the brain of the computer, and it is responsible for accepting data from input devices, number one, processing the data into information, number two, transferring the information into memory, number three, and then controlling output devices, that is number four. The CPU is broken down into three main parts. We have the arithmetic logic unit, we have the control unit, and then we have the registers. The arithmetic logic unit is the unit that is in charge of all mathematical expressions and logical expressions. So if the computer needs to have a logical expression, if it gets to a place where it has to, do I go left or right? Should I do this or that? Should I make this decision or that decision? Is this decision more important than this? All of those decisions are are processed in the arithmetic logic unit. If you have some things to add what is in location 1 to location 2, subtract this from that, multiply this to this, divide this from that. All of those things are controlled by the arithmetic logic unit. The control unit is a very powerful unit. Its job is to dictate what the CPU does. Its job is to dictate what component has to be utilized at what time and when. Its job is to dictate what instruction should be performed, when it should be performed, who should perform it, how it should perform. Its job is to send read and write signals to the various peripheral devices. Hey, you have just typed something on the keyboard, go for it. Oh, I want to put something on my screen, send it there. The memory has information there, go and pick it. You want to send something to the memory, here, let's send it. Something has to go to the arithmetic unit, let's send it to the arithmetic unit. It is the job of the control unit to do all of those things for the computer. Going further, Going further, the register, its job is to save information from the control unit, because it is not everything that you'd want to go to the memory for. Let's have an example. Let's say you are home. Let's say there is water in which you want to drink. Let's say you leave your bedroom to the fridge to pick the water. Now, when you are done drinking the water, it makes sense that maybe in the evening you drink water again. So you just take a bottle and come and put it by your bed. If you want to drink water again, there is no need for you to walk all the way to the fridge. You just pick the water that is closest to you by the bed. That is the job of the register. Its job is to store information temporarily, shortly, just small information, maybe just one, in the CPU. So that if the CPU is performing a particular action, let's say that the CPU is doing some computation, and when it is done, it needs another piece of the puzzle. Maybe you are filling a form. When you fill it computed, now it needs some information from you to continue doing what it has to do. During that time, maybe you get a call, so you're on a call. The computer can't say that because you're on a call and because that is what it's doing, it should wait for you. So it will park it in the registers so that when you come back and you want to continue, you can continue. It doesn't make sense that you send it into the memory, because when it has to come back, it will be longer and it will give you the illusion that the thing you are doing is taking too long. So the register is there to allow the CPU get some breathing room, store some items, keep track of what it is doing. So there is not just one register. There is the control counter, which is a register. There is the instruction register. There is the address register. There is the accumulator register. And all of these things have duties in which they play. But more importantly, look at our diagram. They are all connected to the control unit. The control unit also is connected to the ALU unit. And all the bus lines are connected to the control unit, because the control unit is what will control everything in the computer. You go here, you come here, you is your 10, you is not your 10, you please wait, you don't wait. Here, oh, this one is a priority, everybody wait. All of those things are controlled by the control unit. And remember, the bus lines are what we send information to and from various components. So the bus lines, it's not just one. We don't just have one bus line. We have the address bus line, in which I explained earlier, that uses to send addresses. Remember, it is one way. So you only send addresses from the CPU to the memory or to a particular storage device. We have the data bus, which is used to send information from the CPU to a component and from a component to the CPU. And then we have the control bus, which is used to send signals to various components to perform particular actions and then replies back to the CPU. Now, when we look at this further, I will explain further. Are there any questions? If there are no questions, then that brings an end to today's lesson. Today's lesson was very fast and very quick, but remember, it's supposed to introduce us to the course. After today, your job is to go and read on the von Neumann architecture. That is the first topic we will treat when we come here next week. Secondly, your job is to read on the history of a computer. I want you to read the early mechanical computing devices. I want you to read the birth of modern day computing. I want you to read transistors and integrated circuits. I want you to read the personal computer. And I want you to read mobile computing and smartphones. These are your reading assignments before we appear here next week. Are we clear?
That is the first one.